Today in this video, we were talking about elopements. Benj is an elopement expert in Washington, and we're going to talk about what does it look like to plan an elopement and how do you even go through that process. So if you're thinking about eloping, this is going to be a great video for you. Today, we are talking with Benj Heish. If you've ever met him, you may think Heish, but it's Heish. He is a wedding and elopement photographer based out of the Pacific Northwest, hailing from the Seattle area. He I would think that you really set a bar for what elopements are and can be, especially in the Pacific Northwest. As well, he has a huge Instagram following. He was an early adopter and just consistently puts up good work. And if you're into old school camera gear and film and anything camera, you can check out his YouTube channel because he's killing it over there with great content. All right, Ben, so say somebody's watching this, they're thinking maybe the classic scenario where they were planning a wedding, they got overwhelmed, and they realized, I don't want to do this. I can do something different. I want to elope. I want to elope in Washington. What is their next steps when you're thinking about guiding them on that process?
Totally. So I think the biggest thing would be that you can either figure out if you have a spot that is meaningful or has some sort of sentimental value. Obviously, that can be a huge thing. But I also get a lot of people coming in from out of state, or they have no real context. They just have more of a feeling of what they want, or they've seen something else. And so to make things a little bit more unique and customized to every person, which I think everyone wants for their wedding and stuff, I usually ask more about what they want their day to feel like. How much time do they want to spend hiking or not hiking or being at a place, what they want that place to be like, if they want it to be up in a mountain with viewpoints at the top, or they want to be down below and have mountains surrounding them, or water or trees, and how many of those things can add to the overall feel of the day. And then going off of those kind of things, then we can kind of narrow down some of the different spots and places based off that.
In terms of people eloping, how many couples think I want to elope, but maybe don't realize an elopement can entail? Because maybe they think, oh, it's just going to be so much simpler. And maybe it is, but what are your thoughts?
Especially, it was already progressing in this trend, but then after COVID, it made everything even more so this way, that it feels as if you just have so much flexibility to do whatever you want to do, really. So figuring out what you actually want to experience, what you want your day to be like, and you can make it, even an elopement, into a production where you have someone go set something up somewhere. Or you can have a thing where it's just two people and me, and we grab some people who are in the parking lot to sign the certificate afterwards or whatever. So it can kind of be anywhere between, I've seen people consider elopements anywhere between like 30 people and under, or mine's usually like kind of like the legal minimum, so 10-ish, and then kind of 8 to 30 is more of like an intimate wedding where you have the ability to bring people to maybe like a lake with a mountain view or something, and then the couple and I can go hike a little bit for their portraits or something. So the nice thing, though, is that especially if you're doing something a little bit untraditional and outdoors like that, you have just so much more flexibility because there is less expectations of what like a normal wedding would look like.
And then what about cost? Are you much involved in the cost? Because I'd imagine sometimes they could just hire you and that's it. Maybe pick up some flowers on the way, or...
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure. Lots of times the cost is mainly in me. I'm often the only vendor. Me and like video would be often the only vendors. And then, yeah, either picking up flowers on the way or going somewhere local or lots of things like that. But it can be all sorts of things. I've had people hike with full cakes in their backpacks. But yeah, I mean, obviously, when you're having smaller amounts of people, two of the biggest line items on a wedding aren't going to be there because you're not going to have a venue and you're not going to have catering. So I've had lots of couples, they bought those like little uni pizza things, and they have pizzas for everybody at a wedding that I did outside Yosemite this year. People have ordered pizza. People have gone and done their elopement and then just met at like their favorite bar with all their friends afterwards. So there's lots of cool ways that you can save a ton of money off of a traditional wedding and still have like a fun experience and celebration with your friends and family.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like whenever I shoot elopements, couples will often elope but then do a reception with family. So they're almost getting both worlds a little bit. How often do you see that?
At first, when I first started doing these in 2013, that was a lot less prevalent. But it's one of the things that, especially early on, when elopements were less popular and less known to the public, I guess that I was definitely encouraging people, even if I wasn't documenting it, to have some sort of larger gathering to allow people to celebrate you and have that kind of fun thing. Even if they're not super outgoing, I know a lot of people elope because they are more introverted and they don't want all that attention on them. But giving your friends and family some way to celebrate you after the fact, whether it is like a more traditional reception kind of thing, or if it's just, like I said earlier, like renting out your favorite bar and having all your friends and family go there and just buy their own food, it's still a cool way for people to, celebrate you in the end.
What are like 5 things that are reality checks for couples when eloping? For example, like reality check, you're probably going to get your dress dirty. What are some things that would fall into that category of like, these just go eloping in the Pacific Northwest and these go hand in hand?
Obviously, weather is going to be a very big part of this whole thing. One of the things I personally do actually to combat that weather thing is I try to schedule my elopements, if at all possible, on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday kind of 3-day combo. That way, if we have it scheduled for, let's say, Thursday, and the weather's going to be terrible Thursday, but it's going to be great Wednesday or Tuesday, then I usually try to have that flexibility where within a few days, we can just switch the day if possible and avoid some of that crazy weather. Part of the thing is if you're getting married outside in the Pacific Northwest, no matter what time of year, you just have to be prepared for whatever random weather is going to come your way. And then knowing, planning around time of day when you want to go, if you want to go to like a really popular place on a weekend at sunset, like you're going to have a ton of people there. So finding that kind of stuff, planning for maybe a sunrise thing or planning out a place that is less popular but more intimate. There's just so many different aspects of that. And even like I was just mentioning lighting, a lot of the times I'll look at the place on Google Earth and like Google Maps and then figure out exactly where the sun's going to be and just say, hey, like if you guys want it to be backlit, we're going to have to do that at sunset. But if you want it to be front lit, you're going to have to do that sunrise or vice versa. So there's a lot of like those little micro nuanced things that go into it. But the best part about it is if you are open to eloping in the Northwest, that means you're going to be flexible, hopefully. And part of that's going to be embracing the adventure, I guess, of getting married out in the elements and possibly having your dress dirty and needing to jump over little streams and all of that other stuff that I feel like makes that whole, experience more memorable and meaningful and all that kind of stuff.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You had an iconic photo that you took. Was it Rattlesnake Ridge?
Rattlesnake Ledge.
Rattlesnake Ledge. The one with, was it Nick Visconti? Nick Visconti, yeah. Did it rain? It rained, didn't it?
Yes.
Weren't there wet photos in that?
So that was the first mainstream adventure elopement. That's like the one that started it all. That's what that was the #1 wedding of the year on green wedding shoes in 2013. And so that was the thing that spawned off every other thing about that. So in that one, Nick is a X Games medalist. Laura had 150,000 Instagram followers in 2013, which was crazy. So just between those two things, it was going to be interesting. And then they just had just the two of them, my friend Jansen and then my friend Joel, who was the officiant, and Jansen was the videographer. And we just did their ceremony out in the woods, then hiked to the top, did photos. And as we were finishing up their photos, we could see the rain coming in and then, started to rain. And then so we have all these really cool photos of us running down the trail in the rain and all that chaos. And so the interesting thing is by the time we got to the parking lot, it had cleared up and it was sunny again. So I have a really funny photo of them just next to their car, soaking wet in the sun. But it kind of just added to that whole movement where people obviously don't necessarily want it to rain on their wedding day in their wedding gear and while they're taking portraits. We had this beautiful kind of sunny ceremony. We hiked to the top. It gets moodier and moodier and moodier. You can see the storm coming in. Then it rains, and then we have this frantic dash down the mountain. And so from a storytelling aspect, it just made it so much more interesting and memorable and all that kind of stuff.
What are any tips that you'd give to any couples if they're on the fence between a traditional wedding and eloping?
I think that figuring out just what your priorities are going to be the most important things. So do you want family there? Do you want to have XYZ person there? Do you really value the intimacy of having a small group? or do you want to party with all your friends? You can still do both, especially this day and age where just the availability and almost the permission to do that kind of stuff, because it has been done before now, is available. So regardless of what you're doing, I always just have people, or just tell people, they should write down a priority list of here's what we want to experience on our wedding day. Here's what the things that are most important are. And then go, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that those top 5 things are accomplished. And then you can kind of like plan your day and your experience and everything like that around making sure those particular things are set. And so if you figure out those things, then you can figure out if that's going to just be you two and maybe a couple of witnesses and officiant next to a mountain lake in the middle of nowhere, or if you want to have all of your friends and family all together in one giant room to celebrate you getting married in that same way. There's just so many options, and it's more of what do you actually want to do and less of what do people think you should do at this point.
So if you guys are thinking about eloping, and hopefully you guys found this helpful and you want to know more, Benj could be a great guide on that journey. You can reach out to him on social at Benj Heish, which I'll have on the description kind of down there, or click on the link down below and you can find his YouTube channel, his website, and his Instagram. Thanks so much, Benj.
Thanks, Ray.